Welcome to Foundation Bacalarte. This is a place that combines visual arts and music here in Warsaw, Poland. I am Malena Kapica, visual artist and educator. Today here with me are
Christopher Lin'ard Jackson, songwriter, entertainer, whatever.
I'm David Palacios. I'm a musician, a teacher, kind of a writer, and an actor to be, hopefully.
I'm Asha, psychotherapist in the making, contemporary art theorist.
Barry Solone, musician, choreographer, and artist and entertainer in general.
and we are here today to combine perspective of artists from different backgrounds. And today's question is, does climate and environment of a place that you're staying in affect your work?
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting topic.
You can have a think about it.
Well, I can say for myself, starting out, climate it doesn't necessarily interferes or changes my approach to work and music. Now, climate does affect me being comfortable in the place. Where I like warm weather, warm climates. So
I'm the same.
yeah, so when I'm in a place where it's cold all the time, it always makes me feel on edge and kind of uncomfortable because I can't get comfortable because I can't get warm. So now sometimes that will have an influence on if I'm trying to write something, and then if I'm on edge, things may come out edgy because that's what I'm feeling from being cold, not getting totally comfortable. And then as I listen back to it, then I have to make the adjustments. But to go in and to start to come up with parts and things like that, it may come off edgy just because I'm feeling that way. But then when I listen to the music, I'll make the adjustments then, because it's not, an idea may not be edgy. Just made because I was feeling that way. I just approached it that way. But like I said, I'm making the adjustments. So.
I remember when I lived in Scotland, I kind of wasn't prepared for weather to be quite that severe in feeling. I knew it's going to be rainy and I knew it's going to be windy, but I kind of didn't think it through to what extent it's going to be. So I remember that I had the biggest artist block for months and months ongoing. As soon as the weather started shifting into wintry months, which in Scotland starts surprisingly fast. I remember I just couldn't pick up a brush or I couldn't use a sewing machine. It was just this kind of like gloomy weather fogged my mind completely. And I remember I had the biggest artist guilt. I'm an artist, that's what I am in my core. And I wasn't doing anything arty, so I was very hard on myself for not doing anything, even though I knew that I kind of have to adjust to the weather first.
Well, when you talk about climate, that's very true for me. Both of what each of you said has also been true for me. When you speak about climate with regard to the weather and our own sense of physical well-being, that we feel comfortable, that's one thing. And there's also such a thing as cultural climate as well.
Both.
So the thing is that, I don't know, my perception is that it's difficult for me to feel that I'm working in a bubble. If I'm isolated, then necessarily the climate shouldn't affect me as much. However, unless my mood swings, are going up and down in whichever way they go. However, in terms of the type of work that I do, whether it's in theater or in film or whatever it is, my work tends to involve other people as well.
Yeah, of course.
So in cooperating with other people, yes, the climate, the cultural climate, does necessarily affect my work greatly. That's been my experience, for sure. Depending on who I'm with. In other words, if I'm in New York City or if I'm somewhere where people are all artistically minded and come from a similar background, sometimes the work flows more easily. If I'm in an environment that's, let's say, outside of my own natural environment, and I'm working with people from different cultures and different backgrounds, then, to negotiate the cultural climate becomes, sometimes, let's say, I could call it an impediment to the easy flow of my work. That's been my experience.
I have pretty much the opposite actually. So I come from a warm country, so where every time it's warm, I feel amazing.
Tell our listeners and watchers where you're from.
Well, I'm from Mexico, so it's pretty much. It's cold. It can be cold from time to time, and it's disgusting when it's cold. But like most of the time, we have 10 months of summer, and it's not good at all. Like if you want to be creative or artistic, it's not good at all. At least not for me, because I need cold weather, rain, melancholia.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
You need this.
Yeah, I need it. I need it to feel inspired and to feel like I want to create something. That's in regards of like the weather in the country. Like Barry said.
That's so interesting though, like
It is interesting.
because for me, if I have that hope for weather getting better, like here in Poland we do have the rainy days and like we don't really have that much of a winter lately, but I'm kind of, in back of my mind, I know that there's gonna be April and then May and it's gonna be warm and sunny and I'm gonna have at least a little break of this melancholy, and that hope gives me that push. In Scotland I didn't have that. Like I almost knew that the only month that's gonna be some kind of sunny is gonna be probably July or August, and probably not most of it. So kind of this, idea of rain and wind and grayness all the time was like to...
Well, I mean, I need hot weather as well. I mean, I'm not saying like my mood is like the best during the whole year. I'm just trying to say like to be able to create something, I need cold weather. It's like, I think like people from the north don't really understand how beautiful the winter is and the cold weather is. Because like in Mexico or warmer places, yeah, it's nice weather all the time. You can do things outdoors, but like you never have this time to stop. You never have this time to stop and like to think about yourself, to think about your life or your art. It's like in Poland when it's summer here. You are partying, you're drinking all the time, you are going out, so imagine to live like that for 20 years in a constant summer.
Okay.
It's not good also. It's not like...
Yeah, it does sound a little bit counterproductive.
No, I would love it. I would love, oh my God. Can you imagine? I mean, I used to live in Key West, Florida, so this is the same kind of thing. It was, the coldest it ever got in Key West. The record low in Key West is 60 degrees.
Which, we speak Celsius, so...
Okay, so that's
10 degrees.
10 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
15,
Yeah, almost 50 degrees Celsius. Very mild. And that constant flow of warm, it just kept us so productive. We were doing shows, we were doing, the weather was always good. But I mean, so we can see this topic it's a very individualist type.
Yeah, that's why I
type thing.
picked it.
Yeah, but for example, to me, it was super interesting that you all like present the individual approach to it and like your story, your relationship to climate. Because my first thought, like straight away when I heard we're gonna talk about it, was that climate right now, for me, is super political issue, and also in the field of art, contemporary art, is like the awareness of climate change, the political aspect of it. Like,
It was a conscious choice.
yeah, how does it affect art? And if art talks about it, I'd like right now like to be super political, to speak up about certain things, to bring awareness. And sometimes even artists choose not to. This is also an act.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I would agree with you. So, if we're going to move from the weather aspect of the climate, how do you feel about cultural or political climate right now? How does it affect you and affect your work? Does it make you focus on something different?
Maybe from the perspective of someone who is living right here, right now, a Polish person who is facing this government right now. And to me, it's also what Barry said, really related to the whole cultural aspect, how our government thinks about the future. So the climate is about the future, just like the basic human rights, just like how we treat other people, how we treat ourselves, our planet, like it's all correlated. And to me, art is also a beautiful platform to talk about it, to
Of course.
to canalize the fear, the anxiety that comes with it. So to me, this is like, yes, the art is always.
But did it like push you towards like, I don't know, one idea, or did it change some of your viewing, for example? Because for me, what started with in Poland, which affects not only Polish women or women living in Poland, it kind of affects everyone who's staying here. And you know, like we can see the changes in the movements that are happening here in Poland and States and Argentina. People are going, even though we have COVID and it is very dangerous, people are going outside and trying to fight for what they believe in.
Well, they're trying to still fight for rights. But
Well,
you're
yeah,
saying that
human rights in
the
general.
cultural climate, which, see, that's interesting, that word climate. Like you said, we can use it for weather, cultural climate, social climate, the
Environment.
economical climate that we're dealing
Right.
with. And when she was talking about what's the social climate and climate change, all of these things are different kind of, they're all about talking about climate, but it's different topics. So then we talk about the social climate aspect of it, what things that's going on in the world right now. I mean, and part of that climate now, you have to look at reality mixed in with climate. When you talk about social climate change in that aspect, because the thing is, a lot of people, reality of what is proper socially is different. So, and like what we see now, what's going across the world, and this COVID situation has magnified these issues now. What's going on in everybody's country, the rights, the political, what you're getting from the government heads, and then what's actually going on the ground, what people in society and in that land are really dealing with. Like you see here in Poland, this issue of abortion with women is a worldwide issue.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's not just here in Poland.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's a worldwide issue. The topic of climate change is a worldwide issue
Global.
that we have
Exactly.
that we all have to like look at and look at the perspective of it, the social climate of like you said, people are going out even during COVID now, and they're protesting against these issues because here in Poland, there's a generation now that's just not going along with status quo. They're starting to stand up for things. It's the same thing. It's the same thing almost in every country in the world. Every country in the world now is some kind of protest going on.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
In every country.
The
I
issue,
follow
yeah.
the news. Every country is going on. Every country got a protest going on because now almost people in every land has an issue with the government. And now what has magnified this issue is the COVID situation.
Oh, that's
Because
Aquarius
now-
era for you.
Yeah, because now it's like they have like, it's almost like people feel like now with this COVID situation and these, their approach to how they deal with COVID, people feel like they're taking away their rights. You're getting your personal rights taken away from you. But the thing is, the reality is, if you don't understand how to deal with a global virus such as what we're dealing with, these are not normal times.
Of course.
This is, and matter of fact, this is an extreme time now. we're dealing with. This is like we're talking about life and death now. So okay, so now if the science says the only way we're going to stop this virus is to wear a mask and you have to social distance. But then you have a person go,
Which we're
"Look now."
not doing here, and we're really sorry about that.
but I mean,
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
the one thing, like how I feel about things, it's like I always try to monitor myself and get tested, even to get your temperature taken.
Yeah.
If I start to go out and go
Yeah,
around
of
a lot of
course.
people and stuff like
You
that.
have to be
Because I have to
conscious.
be self-aware of myself. And then if I got a little cold or something like that, I'd rather
Stay away.
cancel for the day.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
you have to be
because
responsible.
I
Yeah.
have to be responsible for myself, but for others.
Yes. Of
So,
course.
so if I may,
Yeah.
I'm trying to take into account what everyone is saying here, each one of us. I want to just step back for a second to what David said,
Yeah.
and that is that, yeah, I think that as nature kind of dictates for some of us that we're used to having classical
Seasons.
4 seasons in the year.
Uh-huh.
So if we're stuck in a situation where we only experience 2 or 1, we can, sometimes our creativity can suffer. So I really understand what you're saying. It's like to be in an environment where it's summer all the time, it kind of could be limiting. It could feel like a restriction on my overall capability to communicate. I really get that.
Yeah,
I understand. This is
also-
why in normal times, we would have, let's say in the old days, in some parts of the world, 4 seasons. Now, as a result of this climate change,
Yeah.
things are changing very, very
Shifting.
drastically, shifting and changing, and I really agree with that.
Yeah, but also it has to be with what you say. That was what I wanted to say next. The cultural climate also kind of affects you because you cannot stay in one place or in one culture or one status quo, let's say, like always, because that would affect your creativity.
Mhm.
The thing with Poland, there's I think Berlin, let's talk about Berlin. It's way more artistic than Warsaw.
Not true.
I don't know, but for what I know is like
I
are more
really
artistic
exactly
people
agree
there.
with that.
This is where David. This is where I wanted to go because I was in the middle of saying something.
Now,
Hold on.
well, you know
This
something,
nationalistic. I want to continue because I want to tie this all
But
in.
I don't think
Yeah.
that I could live in Berlin always.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Also, one thing I don't like about Warsaw,
Oh boy, here
the
we go.
Polish culture in general, it's nothing with the people or the government and stuff.
No,
I
don't worry.
wanna
Like,
get
this is a
political.
safe space.
There's no middle points in Poland, you know. It's always the left or the right, and I don't mean politically. I just like you are politically.
As well.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
well.
but like
What's that?
you are here or you are there. There's no middle people here, you know. And either you are an artist or like
Not.
yeah. But no. I mean, if you're an artist, either you're a commercial artist.
But here's what I wanted to say because with regard to what Christopher Lin'ard said, It's true also that all of these, and what also Asha said, these issues are starting to come together. The political climate, the cultural climate, the creative climate, the actual climate, the temperature. These issues are all starting to come together, and what I think we're seeing around the world globally is that our issues, we're seeing that these are not to be addressed in national terms, in terms of nationality or country or city or what village I'm from, but we're starting to see that we have global challenges that we're all facing
On the other
at
hand,
the
are
same
we
time.
fighting as artists for it? Like,
Hold on, yeah. So as an artist, and now tying to COVID in, because now you're running so now we're we're, let's say, it's recommended that we isolate ourselves from each other. So as a creative person, being in, as I expressed earlier, I'm not sort of used to, I don't like to view my creative process as being something I do in a bubble. Being in your own space and really facing the kinds of messages that the types of pictures, the types of images you want to create. Now I do feel that, from my point of view, I feel more motivated to create or to produce art which speaks to the global culture, which is inspirational to people, which is uplifting, which is encouraging to the fact, and also enlightens us all to the fact that we are all facing the same human challenges.
Are people receiving those messages? That's what I wanted to say, because, I feel like we live in a period of history where everything is like pretensions and like Instagramming and like, posting. I've watched a couple of artists in Poland that are kind of protesting the government, and like with bananas, and because it wasn't
with bananas?
Yeah,
protesting with bananas?
Yeah, there was
a situation with the gallery and Polish artists and
protesting with bananas.
But like,
banana art was banned, basically.
It's an iconic work from like the 70s.
Yes,
The banana.
but are we really fighting?
I recall.
Like, is this generation fighting those things as artists, or are we like selfish, like to just
Self-promoting.
Self-promotion in social media is.
I'm not saying like we should die by a cause or something, but there was a guy in Spain in the 30s, like the greatest poet in Spain. He was killed in 36 or 39, or 36, I guess, because he was gay.
Okay.
And like during the Spanish Revolution, this guy Franco came to the power, and he was a fascist, so he killed all the gay people. And
he tried to kill all the gay people.
He was buried in how it's called in English language. There's not a name for that guy. It's just like common grave, like for everybody.
Mass grave.
Yeah, mass grave. So and that's sad. But he was fighting for his sexuality and like his art. Is this generation truly fighting like that, or is it more like pretentious with Instagram and like?
But that's the problem. That you have no measure to really know it.
Well, to me,
to
that point, I like that point, because the thing is, I don't see this generation now that we're living in, and the artists that's coming out at this generation, fighting for issues like that, like a guy like that back in the 30s and stuff like that. This generation now is more self-absorbed. Well, like you said, with Instagram, all the Facebook, all the social media thing, it's almost like look at me type. Look at me. This is what the Instagram we see and Snapchat and all these kind of platforms, right? That's out now. It's more of like you just self-absorbed.
Self-promotion.
So it's like it's self-promotion, and even in their art. I mean, their art now is all about, oh, look what I did. Look at me. Look at this. Look, it's not about fighting issues that's going to help the whole community. With like the climate, we were talking about the social climate now. Because the social climate, now we saw, like, say for instance, the situation in the United States, Black Lives Matter. I'm not a supporter of Black Lives Matter, but I understand the movement, because the thing is, there's been a lot of people of color throughout all the Americas that have been killed.
See, but I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. That's why I don't exactly agree with the as a white woman, obviously, with a slogan that is Black Lives Matter, because I don't think it should be only Black lives. It should be lives of.
Well, no,
Ooh, that's such a hot topic.
Wait. I'm not saying about white people. I'm saying it should be about Latino people.
Lives
it should
matter.
be about, it should be about
No, when they say black lives mean anybody of color. So that's what that.
Okay, so
Okay,
that's
so
what
that's what that means.
Okay,
they
thank
just
you,
they just
because-
refer to
yeah.
it as black lives.
And
But
the
thing is,
reason-
anyone of color, you're gonna be put in that category of black.
It's important
So-
though to put this in
Okay.
context
So-
and understand
Yeah.
why that term was
Why
created
that term was
specifically.
and that term was
Specifically.
created and supported by
That's
a
why
white man.
Specifically because
Black,
of the mistreatment and killing and murder of black people
People, yeah.
by police officers in the United States.
Yeah.
Well, not
So
only
that was
police
the way,
officers,
by law
by
enforcement.
by just regular white people, just killing black people in America and all throughout the South of North, Central, and South America.
And not being
and
legally
around the world.
not being legally accountable by the law. So
Yeah.
it had to
No.
do with law enforcement and the mistreatment, abuse, and murder of black people by law enforcement. This was a very
Yeah.
specific issue that it was created. The term was created to address. So I
and-
understand your concerns. Like, why should we say only? What is this Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, it's just
But
because
I
I
understand,
couldn't
sure.
understand. So that's where
Sure.
my statement came from, and
Well,
on top of it, the
Well, see,
kind of question.
now this is why I was saying about reality.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people doesn't understand. They look at reality in a totally different way. See, so now when you talk about cultural climate and that kind of thing, some people reality is oblivious to what the actual reality is in the world.
For whom is the question?
Huh?
For instance,
I just said
For whom?
some people's reality is oblivious to what the real reality is in the world. So just like you're saying, you don't understand why would they say a term like Black Lives, because the
Yeah,
thing is,
like, I
you don't
couldn't-
feel that energy, you don't feel that it hasn't directly affected your life.
Of course it did, and like
Okay, so-
for me, it was kind of like looking at the news and everything. It was horrible because I'm a very peaceful person, and I just kind of couldn't understand in my core the injustice in that kind of treatment. Like I
of
just
whom by whom?
of the white police officers or white people towards black people or people in general.
That's what the movement was made for, to make you understand, to learn, to know the history, because it's not like an act that just happened. It's like a systemic historical movement, and that's why it's not only about like Black Lives Matter, but also to rewrite the history and to own the history of like the big part of the
accountability.
society. Yes.
Now, that's a big thing, accountability. Now, you talk about social climate. They're not trying to address this issue of being accountable. They don't want to start to look at those kind of things. See, and it's just like people that's like say, y'all in Poland, this is a predominantly white country
Yes, that's true.
that with the government and the older generation of this country are totally against immigration. They don't really want that to come in. They want to keep their country the way it is. So now this is the same thing with America. The white people who they call settlers, I call them invaders.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so now that perspective is totally different now. My perspective from looking at the people that came into the country as an invader is totally different from the white people that coming in and they're going, oh yeah, my forefathers, they settled this land.
Colonists, Europeans.
You didn't
I wouldn't even
settle-
call
you
them
didn't
white
settle it.
people.
You didn't-
I call them
You stole it.
You
colonists.
stole it.
I call them
You
colonists.
stole it and
I
you're
wouldn't
not
call
a
them
founding
white people.
father.
Yes.
How can you find something when people already had a civilization built there?
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So you're not, no, this is the social climate
Yeah.
aspect that we're dealing with.
Yes.
The reality.
And
that we're
as
dealing with.
artists, how does this affect?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now,
that's
this
that
how
was
it
works. That's
my
the-
next question.
this is what I was just going to bring up. So now, a lot of issues. This is why the hip hop industry became so big. Is because what the hip hop industry was dealing with was the actual reality of things that's going on in our neighborhoods. See, so now in the music, and then you have artists like Marvin Gaye. That song,
Curtis
What's
Mayfield.
Going On, was written in the 60s. This song is still one of the most popular songs in the world today.
Still relevant.
And it's still relevant, and it's talking about issues that was back in the 60s. So we're now in 2021. And so it's like they're still talking about when Martin Luther King came along with the civil rights. This dude didn't really do anything for the actual ethnic group that he's a part of. You know? But the thing is, these issues, same issues that he was dealing with back then, they still dealing with today. So the climate change, the social climate aspect of things is not really moving as fast. I don't care, all these protests, people getting up. Protesters is not giving us the answers.
But it raises the awareness, and I think the difference between then and now is that one thing is like the political decisions and what is happening in government, but like the overall awareness, I think it's raising, and the anger that people feel is also one of the effects of it. And here, the art, what's the role of art? To bring the awareness to, like we were watching with Santi this series about like music in Latin America, the potential of anger in music, the potential of expressing the emotions that people feel. They go to the streets, but then you have art when you also can canalize, materialize it. So I think
Manifest.
yes, and even if we don't win that fight, for example, right now in Poland, our awareness will never be the same as a year ago. It is.
You can't unknow. You can't unknow or
Yeah, but I don't
unsee.
think that depends on the artist. I think it's the generation. This generation itself is changing.
Well, this generation
like Lin'ard
starts.
said, I noticed. I'm working as a teacher in a high school, and I noticed like teenagers who are 16, 17, 18, they're gonna change this country. Believe me, it's a total different generation.
Wait, they are or they aren't?
They are.
Well,
They
well, see,
are.
you can see. Well, this is what I see that's going on.
But I don't think like art. I don't think art itself, it's involved in the
Well,
movement.
well, now art.
No,
Wow.
give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second. What kind of art? What kind of art you're talking about? And that's what I was trying to say before. Like, to which extension, like art, like commercial art, is connected with this kind of stuff, you know? Because we have, on one hand, we have Instagram, social media, all people, you know, showing off and pretending to be something. And on the other hand, we have another type of artist, you know, like the bohemian artist, like who is in a bar, who is writing, or like,
Ernest Hemingway.
timid,
See, but that's the thing.
you know, shy artist. That's the thing.
I
like,
don't like use the political situation or COVID
Yeah.
situation around the world in my art. I'm just not creating this visual perspective that does that. But I'm using the feeling, the energy that is around me to create my art. So I am vocally protesting as a person, but I'm using it as an artist to kind of vent my frustration as well. And my question is now, does this mean that I am actually participating in it as an artist,
In what?
or in the protest
protest.
and in using
In
the
bringing awareness to it.
and bringing awareness, or am I doing that personally, separated from my art?
I think there should be a middle point in it.
Oh, you like
But
the
see,
middle.
you bring,
Yeah, you like the middle.
That's
you bring it to the forefront, your perspective
Mhm.
of how it's affecting you.
Yeah.
So this is what we are as individuals.
And David,
This is all
David
we can
mentioned
do.
that we have these new, and you also mentioned, Lin'ard, that we're dealing with a new way of presenting ourselves as artists to the world. We have Snapchat, we have Instagram, and I think part of our responsibility as artists is to be very conscious of our, what we call, profile.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
exactly.
profile that we are now able to create in order to transmit to the entire universe who we are and what we stand for is a way in which we help to create and to heighten awareness around the world. So I think it's important for me, for instance, as an artist, to be very conscious of my profile if my work, because now I don't have control over that. I go to the internet and I find new photographs and new things said about me every day. So I have to be conscious as an artist that anything that anyone sees that they connect with my identity, that I should be aware that this is a part of the image that I create or project to the world.
Yeah.
But
you have to have something on your background. You have to have something to be defense with. You know, like
plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about you
in general.
In general, like every artist, I don't think like you, because today is really easy, you know, like to make your image of a pretentious artist or like an intellectual artist, or you know, it's really easy to do it. Like you just have to open an Instagram account, and you got it. You just have to post, you know, your photos holding a.
So you're saying the substance of your statement,
yeah,
what you're saying has to be there, or is important.
It's really important, and that's the middle point I'm talking about, and that's what I was trying to say in Poland, with the situation in Poland, with the extremeness that we have in Poland. Either we have this kind of artists, you know, like commercial artists, or like bohemian artists who are in a bar, who are an alcoholic, that just want to stay there. They hate the status quo. This is not alcohol.
Oh, really?
Wine is not the
Wine
answer.
is not wrong. But you know what I mean? Like, I hate the right, I hate this, I hate that. And I'm going to be in my bubble of artiness. I know a lot of artists like that in Poland. A lot. And they are great, especially musicians. They are great musicians. They're gonna stay there.
I have no room for hatred. I just want to make this clear. I don't hate. I have no room for hatred in my universe whatsoever.
None.
So I just absolutely cannot. I am intolerant of hatred.
Yeah,
Let's put
but
it that way.
they have, you know. I don't know if they feel frustrated or something.
Probably. Me too.
Well,
Me too.
Don't we all feel frustrated?
Well, but the thing is, like you said, you have no hatred in your
Environment. I have no
at
room.
all,
I
in
make
your-
no room for
in
it.
your perception of things. But the thing is, we have to know that those that's in control are filled with hatred and manipulation,
Certainly.
and they are the ones that dictating what our societies are going to be.
If we allow them to.
No, we don't have to. We have no control over that because they're going to dictate to us anyway what it is in these countries. These governments are dictating to us. They can say all they want to that we're living in a climate of democracy.
Oh.
But the thing is, every country is a dictatorship.
I believe that the people,
And
that the
if you-
government
if you
are
don't
also
really,
people.
If you don't really understand that reality,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I would like you
Yeah.
to, because we are getting very political about it, and I wanted to ask Asha, how do you feel about your art nowadays, and do you think you're contributing to the, let's say, woke movement, even though I very don't like that term?
But I think it has a lot to do with what Barry said before, with the COVID and the global situation. And because we're locked and we have this platform, it's not like the climate or COVID has to influence your work, but even the way you present it. And the internet, yeah, you have Instagram and you have all the traps that come with it, like self-creation, judgments, comparisons, like, but the truth is that we entered a new level of like virtual reality when we kind of, this is our new country, this is our new society. It's completely boundaryless, it's completely, well, I wouldn't say it's colorless, sadly, but we're going to like a new kinds of societies that are virtual. So we're kind of, it could be a good thing. It has a lot of dangers, just like living in a society has a lot of dangers. But I think for artists, it's like a new opportunity to connect. And maybe it doesn't influence the way you create, but maybe the way you exhibit your work. Maybe the way you reach your audience. Maybe you have another audience. Maybe your audience needs new feelings, new topics, new energy.
So did it affect you personally?
I think, but you mean the lockdown, the COVID situation, or the
All of it.
Just how you
Climate
present
change.
your art.
It's
Just
all,
how you
it's all
present your art.
connected, isn't it?
The
It's
current
all
climate.
connected to, you know, your well-being, your mood, your
yes, I
persona.
think the bare fact of being locked and spending so much time with myself, realizing where I really want to go, and what is mine, and what is the social pressure, because the social pressure also changes in a situation like that. You don't confront people and expectations on a daily basis because you're for a while at distance to it. So I think yes, and it made me more open. It made me more open because it made me more grounded in myself. And I see, because we were talking about nature and the weather, and I see those two shifts. Like one is like the global virtual space, but the second one is because we're in a threat of climate change. We're on a threat of like taking our basic rights from us. We shift towards nature and to simplicity, to realness, to authenticity, to real bonds. And I think if those two meet, it can like be a new environment for creation, for authenticity.
So I would want to like ask you all about the fact, because Barry already said that he doesn't have space for hatred or but if you don't have space for that, doesn't that mean that you're hating hatred?
No, no, actually not. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to maybe clarify that point. And when I say that I have or I make no room for hatred, that means that I also have no hatred in me. I have, I hope, the ability to be compassionate, to understand people's frustration, to understand other people's anger, to understand the nature of governance around the world and how and why it's happening. I hope I have a capacity for understanding. This is not the same as hatred. However, in my own environment and in the way I create the choices I make, I try also to address those things as well. So in other words, maybe by something I create, something I say, a note you hear, a tone, or a sentence, maybe this would open a door of enlightenment, shed some light on certain issues, not only for yourself, but also about other people, another person's perspective. So no, hatred does not enter into my feelings about people who are haters.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't have to hate them.
I don't have to hate
Just
them. I don't have to hate them. No.
That's because that does damage to yourself.
It would be me doing the same thing that I'm condemning.
Yeah,
So
but do you think like art or like artwork can express hate?
Yes, it does.
it can express. Oh, hold it. No. I would hope not. I hope that my work never is interpreted as hateful.
But you didn't say your
Or any
work.
of
So,
our.
can an artist,
Can it
can an
express
artist
hate?
A movie
do work
or a
that can
book.
portray hate?
Can portray anger at its highest degree. See, for me, I differentiate between extreme anger, violence, and hatred. Hatred for me is a very strong word. It's something very particular.
Yeah,
See,
what
it's just
is- what
like
is hatred?
it's just like there was a very famous portrait that was taken, and this guy, they took the picture because they hated this black guy, right? And the picture was of all these white guys who was part of the Klan, and they burned this black guy.
Oh, I've
and they
seen
were
it.
all standing around him smiling, and they loved the fact that they burned this guy up, right? And they celebrated this picture.
It's a barbecue.
Of this, they celebrated this guy as a very respected artist now for his portrait, right? And they made it an actual Christmas card that they sent around, and the whole picture is all about glorifying the hatred
That they had.
that they have for this person. So we can use our art in many different ways, and art. What the beautiful thing about art, right? Art will always reveal what's going on in our society at a particular time. Because art is just a reflection of what we're feeling in society, and the climate of weather, the climate of the social climate, the economical climate. It's just like right now, we're talking about the Black Lives Matter, or of course, I feel like all lives matter. But the one thing we have to deal with is we have to stop killing people of color in this country and around the world for no reason at all. So that needs to be addressed as part of the social climate of things that's going on in the world. And just like David said about how this generation, he's teaching in high school. And there's one thing that I'm noticing when I travel all around the world, and I go into countries that's predominantly white. The generation now, they're not like their parents. They don't want to be a part of that social climate of you see anybody of color, you ridicule that person. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you come around and berate that person with your words. So the social climate, it just brings out, it affects artists in a way to where our art is gonna come out through our art. And if it's not coming out of us that's doing it, it's gonna at least be with somebody around the world as an artist. You're gonna see the reflection of what's going on in society. You're gonna see it. Because this is what art is. Art is just a reflection of...
One of my favorite, I love that. One of my favorite quotes ever, and I don't remember who said it, was that imagination is the ability to see what is there. And
I like that.
And as artists, we reflect. We're instruments. We're paintbrushes.
Vessels.
We are vessels. Thank you.
Exactly.
And we are reflecting the reality which is on the ground and that climate which is changing. So I think if we take our art as true artists, as the bohemian artists, and we take it within our souls and we feel what we're doing, this is maybe different from the approach of someone who just wants to present it visually and wants to project an image. However, all of it together amounts to being a reflection of what is really on the ground.
I love middle point. It has to be a middle point in everything. There has to be like
A spectrum, no.
So-
There's a spectrum.
But I would say like the hatred itself is also something that reflects, but we're not aware of what does it reflect. But it reflects like fear,
Sure.
disappointment, frustration, and it's a deep personal, spiritual work of people to really know what is driving them into hatred.
To express.
Yes.
I agree.
Well, a
So,
lot of times
I would-
hatred comes from lack of knowledge.
Ignorance.
Yes, ignorance, of course.
So the thing is, but I see that as a thing that's heavy, and it's a big part of almost every social climate in every country around the world is ignorance. That's a big issue.
It is a big issue.
Because people have no awareness and no understanding of another culture. So a lot of people will totally reject the culture because of their ignorance of it. And instead of an approach of taking the time to try to get to understand it, learn about it, accepting it.
Prejudice.
Well, see
It's
now,
just prejudice, that's
But see
true.
now, a lot of times, the only way somebody can get to know a certain culture is through the art.
You're the artist.
Through
Ta-da!
the art. So this is why, you know what I'm saying?
I would like to stop you right here, right now, and ask my final question that's gonna sum our podcast today up. So do you think that climate, political, weather-wise, environment, globally, locally, does that make you feel more grounded and more self-aware, as Asha said, or were you trying to escape it through art?
What's going on in the world now? The climate.
Everything, like all together.
It don't make me feel more grounded. I mean, that has to come from within for you to feel grounded. That doesn't come from what's going to go on outside of you. This is what your level of understanding is what's going to make you feel more grounded. Because when you don't understand, this brings in all the other things. This brings in all the other issues. So this brings in the hatred, your prejudices, and all these kind of things. So you're grounded. That's a personal thing where an individual have to like really kind of like look inside themselves and come to terms with who they are as a person to really say you're grounded as a person.
David, how about you?
Well, I don't think it makes me feel grounded. I think it makes me feel scared, actually. Because I don't know about you, but like I work in this way. I prefer to live in my small world, in the clouds, with art and stuff.
Your bubble.
In my bubble, because when I feel grounded, then I just do like banal things, like a lot of all the vices like we sensitive souls can have in life. When I feel grounded, when I feel like change to the earth, I just start doing it. And I don't like it because I forget about art. So I prefer to live in my bubble there in the sky. But I feel scared, and because I feel scared because I realize
you're only human.
Because I'm a human being, and I realize that this world, or like the image of the world I'm making in my head, is not the real world I'm living in. On the other hand, I feel scared. I feel scared, but I don't allow myself to be stopped by the scare. Because I realized that I'm not the only one that's scared about it. And in my job as a teacher, or when I'm teaching, what I love there is like I can influence in my students. I can influence in the new generation. I can.
You can make a change.
I wouldn't say make a change because I don't want anyone to follow my ideas or to follow my way of thinking. But I can give them the tools. I can give them the tools to make their own image or make their own decisions. Like I just became. It was my birthday 2 weeks ago. And I had birthday. And I haven't, not now, but like a week ago I had a crisis. Like I got scared of getting old. It's not the fact like I'm getting old physically. Actually, it's not about it.
You're scared about being old mentally.
And not even that. I'm scared that my generation is getting old.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's the thing. I'm getting scared. I mean, I'm not scared about myself. I'm scared about them. Like my generation. I'm a millennial, so my generation. That's it. Like they were never gonna be like their parents. They are become their parents, and that sucks because I feel alone. I feel kind of away from everything, and that's why I think we should be educators, because that's the way I feel relieved from this scaredness, by educating people, and because that's gonna happen to the next generation as well. They're gonna feel old at some point. And
just the circle of life, isn't it?
And just to close what I was saying, like Barry said, and Lin'ard said too, like we need to educate people as an artist. That's what I mean when I say like, are we fighting this thing? There's a video of a girl in Germany. This girl is black. It's a black German girl, and she's fighting neo-Nazis in Germany, because she's half white, but she's black, And the word "sing" or like.
Well, I'm confused. Can't we just say that she's a girl because
What I'm trying to say, I mentioned that she was half white and half black because she's fighting neo-Nazis.
I think the
but
most
wait.
important thing would be how she does define herself.
Yeah, but
You know.
let me tell you this. I mentioned this because her grandma was part of the SS. So she's fighting neo-Nazis now, and they are like, go back to Ghana, go back to your country. And she's like, I'm German. I was born in Germany. My mom was white, and my grandma was part of the SS. And like, there's a photo of her grandma holding her when she was a baby. You know? Like this grandma who used to be an SS. And the beautiful thing about this is like one guy from the neo-Nazi group is now her best friend. You know, because she's been educating that guy. So take him out from there, and you know, and this guy just totally changed, you know, his mind because he's seeing just a black woman, but he doesn't really know like who she is.
Wow.
And I think that's our job, like artists, like we should educate the new generation to be able to make right decisions for this world, like climate change, cultural change, everything.
So would you say, just one sentence only, wrapping this up, would you say that there is power in art that we haven't been using enough until now?
No, I would not say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say,
Like,
rather, in light of everything that everyone has said, and I was very curious as to what Asha had to say, part of the climate has changed for us now permanently, and part of that climate change is that we now have a wider and a quicker spread of information. And this is an opportunity for artists to take advantage of that in order to enlighten people, to spread information, not just to express our own selves, but to disseminate information, to try to address those pockets of ignorance which persist in the world. So as an artist, I see that now as a part of my not only responsibility, because I've always felt that way. My feeling about the current climate change is like, thank God, finally. Finally, it's reached a point where a larger segment of the population, the global population, because I will not refer to a person as a black person or a white person or a woman or a man or a German or a Polish person. For me, this is not useful language anymore. I think it's important for us to be conscious of the terms in which we use to refer to human beings and people, and try not to perpetuate those same stereotypes and bring it into our work today. So I really feel, yes, finally we're in an environment where not only as artists, if we're this type of artist, we have the opportunity to reach pockets that we couldn't reach around the world that we didn't have before. And thankfully, we have the opportunity to do it. I see it as a responsibility, as part of it always has been, but now there's more opportunity with which I can spread or even receive information from different parts of the world, including all the full spectrum. As an artist, we talk about spectrum, all colors, all shades.
You absorb, you're gonna keep young all your life.
I am young. I will always be. Life is eternal. My understanding is that life is eternal, so I don't fear this aging thing, or the generation. Even intergenerational. I don't see this. I'm not dividing this generationally anymore in my mind. I'm really beginning to see that we're reaching more of a common understanding.
So I think we're coming up today to one conclusion, that all artists kind of feel responsible about educating people.
If I can say something.
Of course you can.
Thank you. About your previous question, if art should. So to me, it's like I find it problematic even in the question itself, like what art should or shouldn't, because I like to think about art as a spontaneous, natural, human activity that is not. Because if you say that there's an institution that should do something, it becomes political. If it's something that we just do because it comes out of the need, the spontaneous need, this is where the truth is. And it's like a reflection of what there is. So to me, like, art is what it is, and then we can analyze like what's its role how does it function within society, but I wouldn't like to participate in like saying that this is the mission, because it kills like this artist potential or
Freedom.
like, freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Freedom
So
of
you
expression.
feel it, you can do it. No, I
Yeah.
don't think it's your responsibility.
Yeah,
to do
and you
it.
should do nothing as an artist.
Well,
You just
really a true
channel.
artist. Yeah, a true artist will be like a channel, like a
Yes.
vessel. And their art is gonna come out regardless. So it's not even gonna be, you know, a lot of things and around us will influence us, but our art is gonna be our art. That's the bottom line. And some of our art, some people will take it now and use it as a way to influence people in society. But as a true artist, you're not thinking about, let me do something now to help the fight, the struggle for women's rights.
yeah,
You're
because
not-
then you're an activist.
See, yeah. So, but now you're an activist to where now you're like sitting down.
Maybe an artist who is an activist.
It is.
Well, a
but
lot of
yeah,
artists,
of
well, a lot of
course.
artists are activists, and
True.
then you see a lot of artists when they do certain work, and
That's probably a
and-
question for another
the
podcast.
persistence of memory.
Yes, so I would love to just sum it all up with what Asa said, very to the point, to the core, really, that art is what it is. And we're gonna see you all next time, hopefully, and have a lovely participation of art by listening, experiencing, watching it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.